So a couple of weeks ago, I was showing a buddy of mine Filament, and we started playing around with adding a different panel for a different set of users within his application. And I started to explain Spotty roles and permissions. It's a very popular library to facilitate assigning roles and permissions to different users. One of the problems that we kind of ran into, and I haven't found a good solution for yet, was being able to, within a panel, assign a role to a user when they register, and additionally also putting a middleware around a panel to make sure that everybody that logs in has a specific role. There are some things that you can do within a policy inside of Laravel, but I thought it would be really interesting, especially after the interview. I don't know if you guys saw it or not. On this channel, we interviewed Dan Heron, the creator of Laravel Filament. And he announced at that time that he was creating a Laracast series on library or plugin creation for Filament projects. So I went and I started watching this, and I was like, man, this would be so cool if we can build a plugin that would make sure that anytime somebody registers for that specific panel, they were assigned that or a specified role. So I went ahead and created it, and I call it panel roles, and you can see it on GitHub. It's at ShanerBaner82 panel roles. That's my GitHub username. I know, it's an old username. Anyway, and this allows you to automatically assign Spotty roles during registration. So I thought, well, let's take it the next step. Let's show everybody how we actually can create something like this. So come along, take a look. So I have a brand new Laravel application, and let's make sure we're in the right directory here. I was kind of playing around with everything, but it's Laravel new, and it's just, I call it roles panel instead of panel roles, just to make sure that we have the right namespace and all that stuff. So first thing we're going to do is we need to create a directory inside of our project for packages. So inside of the roles panel, the root directory, we're going to create a new directory called packages. And I'm just going to call this role. Now this packages directory, you can create as many different packages inside of this directory that you want to. And then what's really nice inside of a Laravel application like this, we can consume the packages that we're building and test it as we go along and make sure that it's working right. So we're going to make this one called role. And this is going to be, again, let's CD into that. This is going to be a package. So when we CD into it, we need to do a composer init, and that's just going to initialize a package for us. And we're going to keep mostly the defaults here because I'm not going to actually publish this, but I want to take you through the creation and show you how it works. So we'll just call it Shane Rosenthal role, leave the description blank, make the author the same. We'll make the minimum stability dev. The package type will be a library. We'll make MIT for the license. We're not going to define dependencies. And so the PS4 autoload mapping, what this does is anything inside of this directory, or we will give the namespace to anything inside of the source directory. So it's going to create that source directory for us. All right, so that looks like it's all done, and you can see we've got some more things inside of here now. So you can see we have that source directory, we have vendor, and we have a composer.json that it created for us. So first thing we want to do here is make sure that we're git ignoring that source directory. So let's go file, let's do a git ignore. And let's put vendor in there. Great. Next, I want to, well, since all Filament applications are going to require Filament, let's make sure we add the Filament support. And as of the time of this recording, we need to have version 3 in here. And then we need to create a service provider. So we're going to be piggybacking off of the Spotty Laravel Package Tools package builder. It's going to help us. We really don't need a lot for this simple package, but it's really going to help us get things stubbed out. So we're going to go into our source directory and create a new PHP class. Let's call this roles. The namespace will be Shane Rosenthal /roles. I know that name is a little misleading. Again, I've already got the panel roles, which is the name of the application or the plugin that I created. I'm just doing this for simplicity. And we have to make sure that this is going to extend the package tools. Package service provider from Spotty Laravel Package Tools. And PHP Storm is really going to help us out a lot here. We do need to make sure that that's capitalized properly inside of our composer.json. So let me just make sure. Yeah, let's make this capitalized. Okay. So extending this package service provider, it stubs out the configure package. Now there's a lot of things that you can do. You can specify that this package publishes config files or migration or certain views. Like I said, ours is a very simple implementation. I'll put a link to this library in the description so you can check it out. There's also a Laravel filament plugin skeleton, and I played with it a little bit, but I really wanted to take you through just building this package from bare bones, basically, not from skeleton, which is also bare bones anyway. I wanted to come in and do it, from scratch and just show you guys how this is put together. So all we need to do here is specify the name, and I'm just going to call this one, let's make it something unique. We'll do Shaner Boehner roles. Great. And that's all that we really need for this. Now, before we start building out the actual plugin, we need to tell our root Laravel project, well, first of all, we have to install Filament, and then we want to tell that project to check this directory and treat it like it's basically GitHub. We're going to treat this directory like a plugin and Composer require it. So inside of our root project, right, we're going to go into the composer.json, and let's close this. And the name of the package is Shane Rosenthal /role. So inside of our require dev, we're going to, actually this is inside of require, I believe. I could be wrong. We'll play around with it for a minute. Yep, that's the old one. So we're going to put this here. Shane Rosenthal /role. And since we don't have any tagged versions yet, we'll just do star. And next, we're going to create a repositories node. Repositories, and that accepts an array of objects. And this is where we specify, the path where our repository is locally and the URL for it. So I'm sorry, we have to specify the type, and we'll say it's a path, and then we need the URL, and that's going to be packages, not pancakes, packages /roles. So now Composer is going to look at, it's going to try to install this package, and it's not going to be able to find it on GitHub or Packagist or anything. It will look first though at our repositories here, and it'll say, oh, we have a path. It's inside of packages roles, and since it's namespaced, then it should just pull this in. So let's cd up a couple directories, and now we're in the root directory, and we're going to do a composer update and cross our fingers, and got a problem. All right, so it's saying that the URL doesn't exist. I must have spelled something improperly. Packages role singular. All right. Let's try again. All right, no errors. And it looks like, yeah, there we go. So it installed the Shane Rosenthal role, dev main, and it symlinked it from the packages role. Awesome. So now we have this package is installed into our root application, and we can start building it out. First, though, we do need to install Filament. So let's pull up the docs here, and we'll just paste in some of these commands. So composer require Filament. And let's see, we need to Filament install panels. We also need, I have already started, so I'm going to say no, but I'm not ignorant. We do need to create our database locally. So we have this called roles panel. And let's go to new roles panel. I'm just using, what is it? Tables Plus. And there it is. Great. Now, the plugin does require that we have Spotty Laravel permissions installed. So let's look up Spotty's Laravel permissions and get that installed into our root application. So Spotty Laravel permissions. We'll need to install this and then publish the migrations, and then we'll migrate everything. Okay, so now that that's set up, we should be able to run migrate, and that works. Now in Filament, it asks us to create a user. However, we're going to, since we have the panel installed, we're going to have an admin panel. And what we want to do is, now this isn't a real world scenario because I normally keep the admin panel turned off for registration, but it's the registration that we want to hook into. So we're actually going to enable the registration. That was YouTube music, not PHP Storm. So let's go back into, we have an admin service panel. Admin panel provider, that's it. And we want to add login. I'm sorry, registration. Now, if we go into, this is the roles panel project. So roles panel.test/admin. And yep, we can sign in or we can now sign up. So let's go ahead and sign up. Now, before we submit this, I want to show you that we can actually intercept. Well, I'll show you a little bit about how this works. So inside of here, if I command click registration, this takes us to the definition for that function, right? So this will take a string, a closure, an array, and if you leave nothing, then it will specify an action, and that's this registration class. So as long as we're using this register class, if we go into that real quick, we should see here, all right, here's a register command. Right, all right, so here's where it actually is doing its magic. It's going to go through and there's a rate limiter on it, and it gets the state. So we have the form, and that's set to our data. And then we're getting a user model, which in most cases is the user model at models user. And then we're just calling create with that data. And we're doing a couple bindings, and we're checking for if we have to send email notifications. And then it fires off this event registered, and it passes that user through this register event. So what we can do inside of our application is we'll create a class that will implement a Filament plugin contract, and we'll be able to hook into different lifecycle hooks basically for this plugin, and we should be able to listen for that event being triggered inside of our panel, a specific panel, and then we can add a role to the user that just signed up. That's in a nutshell. That's what we're trying to do here. So let's go into our role package. Inside of source, we're going to create a new PHP class, and we'll call this actually, that roles.php should have been named. Let's cancel this. Let's rename this one. This should be roles service provider. And let's refactor, rename to roles service provider. And let's just check and make sure that that's good there. And composer.json. Yeah, everything should be good. All right, so we're going to create a new class though called roles. Again, I call it panel roles, and you can take a look into the library I already created and take a look at the code there, but it's pretty much the same. So we'll do PHP class, and we'll just call it roles, and it's in the Shane Rosenthal roles namespace. And the only thing we have to do here is implement plugin. Filament contracts plugin. That's what we want. Exactly. So we'll call this roles. And it's Shane Rosenthal /roles for the namespace, and it's implementing this plugin contract. Now, by doing that, it's going to give us a couple methods here that we have to that we can use. The first one we do have to use. So anytime we reference certain things within a Filament plugin, we're going to need an ID. It does have to be unique. Not many people are going to use my name, so we'll do Shane Rosenthal and then roles. Cool. So this is where things start to get really fun. I thought this was a really, really cool thing when I first started playing with this, that I could actually tap into our panel object from within, from this new package, basically. So let's go to that admin panel provider. And we need to tell this panel that we have a plugin now. And we need to do it like this, plugin, and we can say new roles. Yeah. So now that we have this, we're telling it about this plugin. If I go ahead and refresh this this page, nothing's gonna, oops, Shane roles not found. All right, admin panel provider, new roles. Let's try this again. It wouldn't be a good tutorial if there weren't errors, right? Roles. Well, it does have it here, so why isn't that working? Let's call this roles plugin. And let's see if that works. It does not. So maybe we need to composer install again, or composer update, and make sure that it's pulling in everything we need to, or maybe even a composer dump autoload, but I think this will do that for us. All right, so we are getting an error. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on. All right, so let's get rid of that for now. And let's put it back. Well, maybe. Let's see. Shane Rosenthal role. Shane Rosenthal. Is it roles? I bet that's why. It's the roles namespace, not the role namespace. Let's refresh. Roles plugin. Let's try this again. That might have worked. Yes. Okay. There we go. It was just a namespacing issue. Sometimes I cut those things out, but I think that it's good to see, you just kind of play with things a little bit. Don't panic. I say that from experience. All right. So we have this roles plugin, right? So one thing that we can do is, and this is kind of the, how do you call it? It's kind of like the filament way, is to do roles plugin and then call make on it. So inside of this roles plugin, we need a make command. And all that needs to do is, I think it's static, is return this. And actually, if I look around a little bit here, I think I can find a better usage for that just from poking around into other packages. Panel roles. No, I think that's fine for now. And it's not this. It's actually going to be a new instance of roles plugin. And this should still work, but it doesn't, probably because we need to make this static. There we go. Cool. And so now that we've got this, and this wouldn't be static, this would actually be roles plugin, kind of the same. All right. So the register command, this gets run when you kind of initialize. It's kind of like before the plugin is fully set up. Before you have access to the panel, and we could just like die and dump panel. And this should take effect. Yeah. So here we have the filament panel. We can get all sorts of data from this panel. There's a path and the ID and all the good stuff. Great. So what we want to do is inside of the boot function, we want to listen for that event. So this is just going to get, this will get bound to the plugin, to the panel on basically in every request. So this is just a way that we can add some additional data or additional functionality to the plugin. So we want to use Laravel's event facade, and then we can say listen. And what we're going to listen for is the illuminate auth events registered class. And the second parameter, we can put a listener here, or we can just put a closure. So we can do function, and that will take the event. And what we want to do here is we need to, so sometimes the user, the role might not actually exist yet. And we don't really want to hold that against anybody. So what we can do is we can say role equals, and this would be role, and we'll bring that in from Spotty's models, and we'll say first or create, and then that takes that's going to look for the name, where the name is equal to this role. Now this role doesn't exist, so we need to add a couple things. First, we're going to create a function called role, and that's going to take at least for now, just a string called role, and that's going to set this role to the role that we pass in. Let's make a getter also. So get role, and that's going to, this we actually want to we want to return this so that we can chain things together. Inside of get role, we want to just return this role, and we want to spell things properly. Return this role, and it still has no idea what role is, so let's go ahead and add that here. So it's protected string role. Okay, so now we have this function called role, and let's see, this has to return static, or it could be roles plugin. So this role will take a string and it will set it here. So by the time we get down here, we'll have that role. So for now, let's just like die and dump this role. And let's refresh, and it's going to be like, wait, there is no role because we did not add it to the admin panel provider. So we can chain it on right here, and we can say role and then pass in the string called admin. Now we have access to that admin variable, or the role variable, inside of our plugin. So this roles plugin here, we're going to check for that role. And if it doesn't exist yet, we're going to create it, and then we have a role. So we can say event, and that takes in a user, or it passes the user, and we can just do assign role, this role. Now a couple things. One, let's check migrations, and we can see here, yep, we don't have any roles, but we do need to, I know what we need to do. We need to go to our user model and make sure that we are implementing Spotty's has roles trait, and that will give us the ability to assign roles to the user. Perfect. So now when we log in, when we register, we're going to listen for that registered event that Filament is, by default, it is broadcasting, and really that's very, like, everybody should. So even if you're overriding the registered or the registration, you should be broadcasting that event anyway. And so we're running this function that's going to look for the role, whatever's passed into this panel. And if it doesn't exist yet, we're going to create it and then assign it. And if it does exist, we'll just use that. And we're going to assign the event user, so the person that just registered, we're going to assign them that role. Let's test this out. So first, a refresh. So we're signing up. Let's put in Shane. Let's do Shane at laravelonline.com and a password and sign up. And with our fingers crossed, all right, so it didn't fail. There was no failures here, but let's check and see if our role was created. Aha. The admin role was created, and if we look for model has roles, we can see the model, the user with an ID of 1 was assigned the role of 1. Perfect. So that worked perfectly. That was so easy. One more thing that I wanted to add here is and this is in the README for the instructions. This is in the README, the instructions that I put with the plugin. We do require, for this plugin, we require that you have Spotsy's Laravel permissions. You add the has roles trait to the user class. And then the other thing you need to do is go into the middleware here, if I can find it. You guys probably saw it. You guys got good eyes. Using a middleware. All right, for Laravel 9 and older, Laravel 10. All right, so we want to copy all of this stuff here. And if we go back into our app HTTP kernel and we scroll down, here's our middleware aliases. We need to pass this in. So what we're going to do is actually use this role here and make sure that when users, when they log in, even if, after they've already registered, when they log in, we're going to check to make sure that they have the same role. So inside of our roles plugin, inside of the, and I'm going to put it down at the bottom because these two functions are kind of special, the boot and the register. So we want to make sure that, well, we have access to this panel, right? So let's dump panel. Let's refresh this. Now, because we're using that plugin, this gets hit no matter what. We're inside of this panel and we should see this. And what we can do, if we look here, admin panel provider, you can see that there's some auth middleware. And we're not going to override this, but what we can do is actually extend it by, well, just putting our own inside of here. So in the roles plugin, we can say panel, and we don't want this authenticate class. So let me get that back out. We just want to say role colon this role. So what that does, and that's really just using Spotsy's middleware. So it's like role super admin, role or permission, and we can build onto this, different, checking for permissions or, a lot of different things. But that's how that works. It's role colon and then the name of the role. So if we refresh this, everything works. But well, let's see if we just put like something in here that makes this invalid, right? We know that this user has the role admin. So if we just put something, that's not this role, this should fail, and it does. So we can now verify that this user is assigned this role when they register, and every time they hit any of the routes inside of this panel, we are now verifying that they have the role inside of a middleware. Well, I hope you guys had a great time tagging along and checking out how you can put together a small filament plugin. I certainly had a great time, and I plan to make a couple more of these. So subscribe to the channel if you want to keep following along. Comment below if you have an idea for a plugin that we can build together here on this channel. I would love to have some collaboration and working on something like that together. And click this button or link right here to this video I created. Well, it's actually more of a playlist of over 20 hours that I've put together so far, building LaravelOnline.com from absolute scratch, LaravelOnline.com, and bringing in Filament and building out everything. We're not even done with that. You can check out the website and see we've got a long ways to go. So stay tuned. Keep on subscribing and keep on liking, because you like this stuff and you want to see more of it anyway. And I can't wait to put more things together to show you guys. We'll see you next time.